Monsteropolis, a show about anomalies, legends, and monsters. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Seth Breedlove. I'm joined, as always lately, by my pal, Heather Moser.
Hi.
Did you like that pronunciation?
It's great.
Moser.
Yeah.
Mosser?
Mosser? No.
Anyone called you Mosser?
No, no one.
Mouser?
No. It's a first for both. Thank you.
And I'm laughing already. Crack myself up on this show.
Nice.
We just lost all the YouTube watchers. They're firing up those comments. Okay, so I am nasally. Forgive me. I've spent 2 nights in the woods. It's taking a toll.
Days and days.
It's taking a toll on this man. Before we get into the show, I should mention we have guests.
Yeah.
Aleksander Pedikov, and Eli Watson.
Hey.
Gotta talk into the mic.
Hey, everyone.
Okay.
It's so good to be here.
Wow. Right. Let's tone it down. All right. So real quick, become a squad member. Watch Monsteropolis ad free. We dropped last week's episode completely. We failed to post last week's episode for Squad, so we got to do that still. Andy, quick reminder that on Monday we need to post next or Tuesday. Yeah. What's Monday? Labor Day.
Labor Day.
I'm working. Screw it. Can't stop, won't stop.
Tim doesn't take holidays.
So drop everything you're doing right now. Go join Squad. Our Squad membership has skyrocketed in the last couple of weeks. What you've seen if you're a Squad member is Beyond the Trail, Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, 4K. Are you kidding me?
All in 4K. Yeah.
4K for Squad only. The regular YouTubers, sorry, you're not watching in 4K. Suckers.
So join.
And you're watching ads. You don't have to watch ads if you're a member, because Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. I'm basically taunting people into joining. Anyway, it's very cool. 4K, it's a beautiful show, so you're going to want to watch it in 4K anyway. And then we also have new Hauntings episodes in the can. Are you kidding me, Heather Moser?
Yup.
Okay.
That's good enough, I guess. We'll deal with that.
Right. Those are coming soon. And we have other stuff on Squad. Oh,
Yep.
We'll have production diaries from stuff dropping soon too. We'll have production diaries from all those Hauntings episodes, and other things and stuff.
Yeah, behind the scenes
stuff, all sorts of stuff.
Stuff. There's lots of stuff.
Okay, there's stuff
Worth your
coming.
money.
Get in there. Get up in it. All right, so this we're in the midst of filming Beyond the Trail, which is why Alex and Eli are here. And we can talk about that a little later in the episode, but I think first of all, we're going to talk with these two gentle sirs about their time in the field filming Beyond the Trail.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble. It's pretty boring.
Truth is out there.
Andy, cut it. Cut all that. Okay, so one thing I wanted to know is, Alex, you and I first talked about this series like last winter, right?
Yeah, I think it was right before 2021.
How would you describe Beyond the Trail?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Cool.
No, it's kind of an adventure series, a little bit of actually being out in the field doing research. Typically, I was sort of more into doing films like the traditional STM way or other docs where it's a story about an event or a cryptid. Wasn't so much as I was in front of the camera, so this was kind of a chance to do that. And all throughout my interest in this subject, I've been doing kind of amateur research, right? There's so many of those out there. So I was like, you know what? This is sort of an attempt to not only tell the story of a certain place, maybe a region or a state, an area like Bluff Creek, the Patterson-Gimlin film, but it's a chance to actually do some research and try some of the techniques that people use out in the field, see what happens. And we're not going to sugarcoat it or put in, any kind of spooky music or fake things that happen. If we don't have anything that happens, we're going to show you that.
It's going to be on camera, yeah.
You'll get the whole kind of story. So, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it. I call it part kind of adventure vlogger style / story about regional Bigfoot stories.
Our first discussion about this involved me. So I was super into like survival YouTube shows last year, and our first discussion was kind of around that format, but it hasn't really followed. It completely became its own thing. I would compare it to On the Trail of,
right,
but much more in the field than On the Trail of is even allowed.
Would you say it's beyond the trail?
I'd say it's get your face into the microphone.
Hey.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's a good way to put it, Eli. Yep, nailed it. Nailed the branding. What?
Definitely a companion piece.
Well, how's it evolved? Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is it came out of the journey was when we really like that was what as I was editing the journey, I know that this was one thing that was coming to my mind was like Alex is basically gives us a little bit of outdoorsy cred, because I'm not surviving if you put me in some environment like you're going into. I'm probably dying within 5 minutes. I almost stepped on a timber rattler on top of Mount Hadley after a 3-mile hike. So, and if it had bit me, Eli wouldn't have been there to suck the poison out of my foot. So I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known what to do. But how do you think it evolved from the first episode and to where we are today? Because it's definitely like when I watched the first episode to Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, it's definitely like becoming something different than it started.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first episode was more of a personal case for me. It's like my active research area that I still go to. Mm-hmm. It was just one little piece of that, and I think it's evolved in the sense that it's covering a lot more kind of characters in the Bigfoot world. Mm-hmm. So we're having a lot of folks that people will know. Cliff Barrickman, James Bobo Fay, Lauren Coleman. Lots of crossovers with other researchers, people that some might not know, new researchers, institutions. I think that's been kind of the trend. The whole last few productions has been museums. So we've got the International Cryptozoology Museum. We've got the Willow Creek China Flat Museum with the Bigfoot Room, Cliff Barrickman's North American Bigfoot Center. The upcoming episodes will feature the Sasquatch Outpost in Colorado. So it's kind of, we go to these hubs where people report activity in the local area. I'm not just going to go to Colorado or Oregon and say, oh, I know where to find the sightings. I want to talk to people who have data. So like when we were in Oregon, we could talk to Cliff or Connor and they could say, there was a whoop or a vocal reported last night in this area. You guys should head out in this spot. So whereas the first few episodes kind of started out more, us just kind of heading out into these areas, hit or miss, in whether or not we're going to have anything happen. Now it's been a little bit more targeted in terms of these are areas where there's been recent activity or recent reports. So I think that's kind of where it's evolved, and I think people are going to like some of the newer stuff as well. We spend time out on properties and do that kind of thing too. Am I too far?
No, I think you're good. I can't tell if it's fading in and out or what's going on. Do you have a question here? You want to hop in?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Eli, how did you come to be? No,
well, it started in the Redwoods.
This was a mistake. I've seen that video.
You have? Oh, Lord.
All right, hold on.
Oh, Lord.
Hold on. Let's talk about how you came to be involved in Beyond the Trail.
It seemed to be a little bit of a natural progression, I think, because last year Alex and I were on a production together. I don't know if it was Chasing Legends with Nash Hoover.
I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar.
And Alex and I seemed to work really well together, and so he did that, the Granite State Bigfoot case kind of on his own as the pilot episode. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, it was a combination of things, because we had talked last year too.
By we, you mean?
Me and Seth.
Yes.
Seth and I.
I'm Seth Breedlove. Nice to meet you.
Yep. And we had discussed, actually on my show, or actually after I interviewed
what's your show?
Cryptid Campfire.
Cryptid Campfire. Check it out, cryptidcampfire.com.
Thank you. Actually, yes.
Cool.
That is
there
true. We had discussed, you had mentioned about a production which is becoming The Discovery.
Yes.
We're allowed to talk about it.
Are we
Oh,
all-
yeah.
we're
Oh, just
allowed-
like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can
About-
talk about everything now at this point.
It's true.
Okay.
We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
So The Discovery.
Originally, I think I talked to you about being part of my crew, right?
Mhm,
Yeah,
yes. And then
So Eli is a talented filmmaker himself, and so I'd originally talked to you about like coming on my crew and being a part of that. But then I don't know, how did that morph into you guys?
I think it was like
no,
there
I
was
don't
the-
remember.
there was the trip going out to PNW,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of piggybacked on that, and then that became, well, let's just turn that into a Beyond the Trail episode.
Yeah.
And you organically mentioned, hey, I don't know if I want you to go out there alone. Do you want to take this Eli Watson guy? And Eli and I had already become very good friends, so I was like, well, I mean, sure, I guess. You know? No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I was delighted to have Eli along. So that whole trip was just amazing. I mean, the way it worked with your production,
Yeah.
we kind of did our own thing at first, and then it paralleled. And I think the way the two productions will work
Yeah.
is very interesting.
I've talked about this already, but that trip or that shoot cemented for me the limits of what I can achieve with On the Trail of.
Yeah.
Because in my head, On the Trail of was like our big like guerrilla boots on the ground in the field thing. And I'm like, you cannot do that with what I'm attempting. You can't do that while attempting to shoot like 20 interviews and with the sheer volume of gear we're trying to take to get all this, it just doesn't work. So, but the way we made that work was that Beyond the Trail became the actual like go out into those woods, learn about the woods through On the Trail of Discovery, and then you actually get to explore them with you guys. And I think the differences between the two productions will be, I just think you're going to get such a comprehensive look at that area, but also the Olympic project and the nest site discovery and all that stuff. I just think a lot of that is going to be really cool when you're seeing those two things interwoven together.
Totally, because I think you have events that are coinciding. You know, whereas Eli and I, we were the first ones to stay at the nest site before we linked up with you guys, and then a lot of the stuff will have that crossover feeling, but it'll be totally different because you're interviewing the entirety of the Olympic project, whereas we only maybe interviewed a few of them, but we spent time with them and they're explaining to us things in the field, and we can kind of, with Beyond the Trail, we can go on those sort of monologues where it's just one guy holding a camera walking around in the field and get away with it more so than it would work in an On the Trail of. It's just a different style overall.
And I want to do more like that because I think it's such a cool way of doing things. We had actually talked about doing the same thing with what we're doing right now. I don't know if you and I talked about it, but I kicked around the idea of doing like an On the Trail of the Minerva Monster. It's not going to happen. Sorry, guys. But with this Beyond the Trail that we're doing right now, I thought about trying to do something like that.
Are you guys going to, as well as that, work together, the filming at the same time? Is that something you're going to continue to do moving forward with other Bigfoot projects? Like be in the same area at the same time and...
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I don't know. Alaska, we're going to do... We haven't announced it yet, but there's a new On the Trail of Bigfoot project next year that'll take us to Alaska, and I think he's going to be a part of the crew. And that's, I mean, Alex and I have worked together on the Trail of UFOs, season 1.
UFOs,
Momo. But I mean, in terms of like where we're production crew together, we've already crewed up together on two big On the Trail of projects. And I was just talking, I think I was talking to Eli about this, how Alex is, or maybe it was you, how Alex is the only person who's kind of gone out on his own.
Both of us, huh?
It was us.
Yeah. Sorry. Who's kind of like gone out on his own for STM, where I can basically just let you do whatever you want. And I don't like, there's no stress on my end. If like you're making something, I don't have to worry about it.
That's what like Beyond the Trail has been so far. It's been episodes that aren't really related to any other STM movies, like a Bigfoot in Maine doc or a Bigfoot in Colorado. Whereas it's so cool that we'll have both. That is independent. Like you could watch an episode on Bigfoot in Colorado and enjoy that, but then you could also watch On the Trail of Bigfoot the Discovery and then our accompanying episode. And those sort of, you could watch them independently or watch them together. So I think what's cool about Beyond the Trail is how different each episode ends up being. And obviously Eli and I are also editing different episodes, so we have our different styles. And That's really cool.
Which I want to talk about that creatively because I have questions as I'm watching them. Because I've actually, what's up?
I'm waiting for the question.
Oh, you had a very serious look. You were very excited. That was your Terry Gilliam face.
Dude,
Terrence Malick face?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay, so, all right, so we have, and I'll try to be careful here because the one episode hasn't even come out yet, but Bigfoot at Bluff Creek and all the episodes prior are edited by Alex.
Yeah.
And then Bigfoot Mountain is edited by you, Eli.
Yes, it is.
So as I'm going through, so I was thinking about this from a story. We talk about story structure a lot on the show for some reason, probably because Heather's involved now and Mark's smart and I'm a Neanderthal who's trying to make sense of everything. Like I've just discovered fire and I don't want to burn myself or something. But that
was quite a lengthy
description. So as I'm watching the episodes, it's like there seems to be a pretty, a pretty fixed sort of like not a two. It's following a 3-act structure, but you got these a very diverse like first half and second half through the first couple episodes. Where did I say diverse? That isn't what I meant. Ignore that word. Definitive. So you've got on the first few episodes, there's like very fixed like interviews through the first half, kind of getting you clued into the story, and then it becomes investigative toward the second half. Bigfoot at Bluff Creek kind of changes that a little bit because you get interviews coming in later that flesh out the story of the area more, which I thought was super cool. Because like one thing that happens when you're watching a show that's episodic is you get to a point where you're like comfortable with the format and it can become stale or something. You're just like, okay, and now we're gonna go on to the now we're gonna go on to the investigation. That's gonna go like 20 minutes, and Eli's gonna fall down a cliff or something like that. You kind of like know what's coming.
Happens every time.
Yep. Yakety Sax is gonna play. Eli's gonna fall down a cliff.
No, but I get what you're saying totally. I don't want it to become stale. I think every time we try new things, we try to make things work. One thing I do like sticking with is if it's about a particular area, so Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, California, I do want to give a little backstory about what's going on there. But what was so cool about that was you had so many people that were involved with that film site, with everything. So we got to interview people right where things had happened. So we got to add that in later on. I kind of didn't want it to just be, as you said, interviews first, and then everything else is investigative. Yeah. It's broken up a little bit. And I think going forward, each episode is going to have different type of elements. And each episode is really its own film. Like you could watch Bigfoot at Bluff
that's what
Creek
we talked about that in the earliest days. I said I didn't know how to brand. Yeah. I didn't really want to use the word, and I don't think we do typically. We do somewhat in the social media stuff, but like
just say episodes.
I try to stay. Yeah, I'm actually trying to stay away from saying episodes because to me it feels like each thing is its own unique little chapter in the overriding story.
The only like overriding theme would be myself and Eli, perhaps another character or two, and then the Beyond the Trail title. I mean, that's basically it. And Bigfoot.
Right. And you look at all the episodes we've done have been like insanely different. You know, to give a sneak preview, Colorado.
Careful. No, go ahead.
We had the kind
careful.
I'm gonna just go for it.
Go ahead.
No, we had the museum thing like we did with Oregon and kind of California, but then we did Utah right after, and there's no interviews. Yep. There's no institutions of any kind. It's just us.
It's totally gonna be different.
It's gonna be wild.
It almost like just looking at that one and without giving too much away, it's very much gonna be a nature documentary because it's about this extremely rugged region and. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, when you're editing, so again, this is where the spoilers come into play. Is that your episode hasn't come out yet? We haven't even really posted anything from it, and I've seen the rough cut, which isn't the whole episode. But one thing I said to both of you is that the difference in editing styles is like immediately apparent, but it doesn't feel disconnected in any way. But I just was a fan of how your episode felt different from Alex's. They're both great, but like yours felt very much like, a little more like artsy fartsy is the way I think that's the technical term for it. Artsy fartsy episode with a lot of like quiet moments and stuff, which I appreciate. And I'm not saying that as an insult. Artsy fartsy.
I can add some rock and roll in there.
Man, get some rock in there. No, but in all seriousness, I really enjoyed that. It reminded me of that movie that Mark and I love, the In Search of Bigfoot with Robert W. Morgan.
That would be great if I knew what you were talking about. Man. I really don't know.
Okay, cool. But like when you set out to edit the episode, how difficult is that picking up after Alex, where he's already done three?
This is the third one, yeah.
Where he's already done 3 episodes, so there's sort of a format you got to follow. Like, what did you set out to do when you were editing it?
I actually rewatched the first 2 episodes and kind of analyzed the way Alex sets it up. Because Alex had, if you were to just give me free reins, the whole episode probably would have looked like way different, and it wouldn't have fit with the rest of it.
Or something?
Maybe, but so. And I know I'm working within the parameters of a series. Alex kind of established the series, so I wanted to kind of follow up, just kind of stylistically as much as I could, you know. So that's why I rewatched the first 2 episodes, took some copious notes, like you should see them. It's like 3 or 4 pages of notes. And so I was just kind of working off that. Of course, again, like we were saying, every episode's different, so I couldn't do to Oregon what Alex did to Maine, because it wasn't the first half is interviews, the second half is the investigation. It was more of a ongoing thing.
Right.
So, and I guess in some ways it was a little bit hard because I was trying to see what Alex was doing with Bluff Creek, but at the same time, we were editing them at the same time, so I actually waited a week. That didn't really help me any. But...
Yeah. The time crunches, I think, have been pretty nuts this past.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so it's September. It's like early September now, and I cannot believe that it is right now because beginning of June, we were out in Maine. That's when we filmed Maine. I had 4 weeks.
Crap.
I had 4 weeks to edit the whole Maine episode before we left in early July for around 3 weeks in the Pacific Northwest, and that was 2 productions. So that's when we did Bigfoot Bluff Creek and Bigfoot Mountain, which is the Oregon.
Yes, you're editing in between all the shooting.
Yep. And then as soon as I get back from the Pacific Northwest, I had another 4 weeks to edit the Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, which was premiering end of August, which would have been on the road. We went out to Colorado, Utah, and now out here in Ohio. So that's another 3 or 4 weeks. So we've been doing that in that time constraint, and it's worked. I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's definitely stressful at times, but I think the film came out the way I wanted it to.
Well, it's weird, too, because you and I were talking about this as being like a bi-monthly or maybe even less than that. I feel like we had talked about maybe 4 episodes in the first year.
Yeah, it just kind of took off.
We're already at 4 episodes.
I know. Well, the first episode was filmed in January of 2021, end of January, and it didn't come out until May, so I had... I had a few months to edit that, so a lot longer.
It's basically monthly.
Yep, at this point, yeah.
Yeah, and actually Bigfoot at Bluff Creek was ready to go way before it actually posted. So I
had to have it ready to go when I hit the road for Colorado.
So the interesting thing to me it has been watching the way that you're telling the stories evolve. But the biggest thing I think that as an outsider to the project, I can't think of anything else like this. And I don't know that people will appreciate it to the extent that they should for a while, because I don't know that anyone understands the scope of what you guys are doing on the budgets that you're working on, in the amount of time you're working on. And when it's all said and done, like even if this series ended at the end of this year with what you've got filmed already, which is what? We still have how many episodes to go that you've already shot?
5. We're going to have, coming up will be the Oregon, Colorado, Utah Olympics
Colorado. Did you say
I
Colorado?
said Colorado, so
right,
I'm losing track now. Oregon is yet to come out. We've got Colorado. I think then the Olympics would come out, and then Utah, and then this Minerva. So that's five episodes that are
in
not
the can,
Wow.
ready
That's
to go.
Going to be 8 by the end of 2021.
Yes, and that's on.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's. I mean, like when it's all, and we've already talked about like going forward, where we're going to go, what we want to do next.
Oh, there's so many ideas that pop up, and then people tell you their stories, and they say, "Hey, I've got this stuff going on my property. You should spend some time here."
Right.
So it becomes so enticing. And yeah, we've somehow made it work. I mean, it's been unlikely at times, but it somehow all worked, and we've had a lot of fun with it. But I think the overall goal, my favorite part of it, is being able to show nature. For example, Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. So I had watched probably every video on YouTube about Bluff Creek going back the last 10 years. I could not find anything that really gave me a sense for what that area looks like, aside from our friend Jonathan Easley's videos, which showed some of these areas. Probably the closest thing to it. And he did some great work. You know, I'm not knocking it at all. But I looked at what he did, and I wanted to expand. So I wanted people to get a feel, this is what Bluff Creek feels like, the area. And I've had a bunch of people who went there 10 years ago message me saying, this really brought back memories. You captured the place really nicely. I think that's been kind of the coolest part, is just showing that raw nature. And I think that adds to the whole Bigfoot mystery, because you say, hey, look, there are these untouched areas where, despite people coming in every year, you know, visiting the film site, it is still pretty much as raw and rugged as it was in 1958 when they first punched those roads in there, or 1967 when Roger and Bob rode down that creek and saw that creature on that bed.
Well, that's picking up on what established STM in the first place, which is the production value becomes your locations. Because we don't have billion-dollar budgets like travel networks or whatever, but like you guys are actually taking people to these places. The fact is, like, a television crew probably isn't going into Bluff Creek anymore. Like or any of the places really that we're going. Who the heck is going to go to Heather Moser's property in Minerva?
Yeah.
Or the High Uintas. I mean, we went on.
That wasn't an insult. I'm just saying.
No,
like,
I mean that's cool. Yeah, it's good.
Oh God,
no, it's like in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we basically went on a backpacking trip in the mountains of Utah, but brought camera equipment with us. Yeah. We could have done that trip without our Sonys, without a drone, without GoPros, without audio recorders. It probably would have taken a little bit of weight off. 10,000 foot elevation, but we basically are showing you that backpacking trip, but combining research as well. So you're not only doing a film, but you're actually backpacking. You're having to make sure you have equipment to keep yourself alive, food, protection, shelter, tents, all that kind of stuff. So we're really bringing you along for the ride on that one. And each one is different. Like the Colorado one, I'm trying to I haven't started editing it yet, but I'm thinking something more Western. It's going to have some Western vibes because cowboys, you know, Colorado's synonymous with that kind of thing. So
how are you handling how are you handling the gear? Like, especially how are you charging batteries and dumping footage and all that?
Bringing a lot of batteries. I mean, I think when we were, like, Utah was the most amount of backpacking, I would say. We did a little bit in Oregon, but not as much. Must have had 10 batteries for the A7. We had probably all 5 batteries for the Handycam.
Yep.
Little whole packs of batteries for audio recorders. And we're also bringing Bigfooting equipment, so that includes a wood knocker, Sasquatch pheromones, DNA collection kit, all kinds of stuff. So we could be doing the trip with just Bigfoot equipment and survival equipment, but you're also adding on that filmmaking equipment. So I don't know. We just do it and we make it work. That was really the first one where it was in depth like that for a number of days where we're in the middle of nowhere. Other ones, it's usually been in between, you know, visiting properties or spending time in the woods. So I don't know how it's worked. It just has somehow.
Filmmaking inspiration behind the series. Is there anything you're watching or like thinking of when you're editing it?
There's definitely a mix. There's a mix of things. For sure, kind of classic shows like In Search Of, that, you know, showing the regions, that kind of thing. But also, I think 21st century, everyone's on YouTube, everyone's watching, you know, how to craft videos out in the field. So that, I know, as you had talked about, that was a little bit of the inspiration. But I do try to keep a little bit of that element. You know, here's us making burgers at the fire in the camp. Like, you want to feel like you're there, enjoying a nice burger, having a beer in Louse Camp, which is the place where Tom Slick set up an expedition 50 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that, Survivor Man, some elements for sure. Just a mixture of things. I wouldn't say there's a one definite inspiration.
Yeah, I've seen people in the comments kind of not get things that we are clearly doing intentionally, and that includes the food. It's like, you can tell there must not have been a ton of activity if they're showing them making a burger.
If they're eating.
Yeah, they're eating.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Dare you.
I'm not used to people on media eating at all. But no, it's just part of it, I think. And we're spending time with Bigfoot researchers and how they do things and techniques that they've suggested. So like in Maine, we put out tobacco. People are laughing at us. Oh, we put out tobacco. Well, there's been a few sightings that have involved tobacco.
Yeah.
Habituation sites. So we're just kind of trying things. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we're not going to tell you it worked. We're just going to say this is exactly what happened. And is it all our minds playing tricks on us, or is there legitimately activity going on? So we're not trying to embellish anything like a lot of these programs have done in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Filmmaking inspiration. Because I've seen, one thing I've seen since you came on is, and this isn't a knock on Alex, but the fact that there's two guys with cameras who know what they're doing with their cameras now has allowed the show to get a little more fancy in the camera work. For real. Like I've noticed the camera work change over the course of the series too. So like, what are you bringing to the table inspiration wise?
Inspiration wise, I don't really.
You don't know.
I don't know, because I don't watch documentaries, and I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube either. I just watch artsy-fartsy movies. Maybe that's why
artsy-fartsy?
Artsy-fartsy movies.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. But no, for real, I just try to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like in the wilderness, when I'm filming, I'm usually filming Alex because Alex has a lot to say about the wilderness. He knows more about the wilderness than I do. That's fine. And
there was some sorry to cut you off, but there was like some shot in the Bigfoot of Bluff. Oh, maybe it was the Oregon episode, but it had to have been you, I'm assuming, had framed Alex, and Alex is kind of down at the right hand corner of the frame, and then there's like scenery kind of just taking over the rest of the frame. I don't know which, I would assume it was you that shot it, but it was such a cool, framing wise, it just placed him within that location so well.
Composition is something I'm constantly aware of.
Yeah.
That's something I'm always trying to
super cool
to do, and a lot of the places we go to are insanely beautiful, so you have to let that take over sometimes.
Well, I just know from doing this myself, when you're in Alex's position, like you were on the first episode, where it's just you kind of like trying to film, get as much of it as you can, and you had someone else with you on that, and I'm sure you handed him the camera, right?
Yeah,
but it's like
he's a Bigfoot guy, but he's not like a filmmaker,
right?
So
and it's one of those things where,
him,
you get the shot that you can too. If it's just you by yourself, you're just in that position where it's like, I get the shot I can, but if
also I got to say that episode was filmed in 5-degree weather, so we had
insane.
probably the coldest weekend to film it, and I was like, let's do it, because I want people in the comments making fun of us for, you brought all that out for one night. You try camping in that weather. You see what equipment you're going to bring. But so one thing I wanted to add though, it's great having Eli there because of that. I'm struggling to kind of film myself and do all this stuff, but I can just throw him the camera and he knows exactly what to do. I don't have to be like, oh, please do this, do that.
Yeah.
He kind of will get it right away. So I can talk about something or explain, well, we just had this happen, and not have to worry about it. And I know I can just have him do the drone stuff. Or before I was having to film, do interviews, drone. Now I don't really do any droning unless I want to just kind of get a shot. I just trust him, and he can just do what he's going to do, because I know he's going to get some great stuff either way.
Do you want to hop in with a question yet?
Well, I had one, but
go ahead. No, hop in.
Okay. So, thank you.
Oh.
My question is separate from the whole filmmaking aspect. Obviously,
I was about to change it up.
Yeah,
so.
were you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, we kind of got I saw a little bit of this yesterday, but how much or how often are people now coming to you guys since this has started, since Beyond the Trail has started, to say, I've had this activity, please come here, or, you know, like, is your phone like blowing up all the time now with these kind of stories?
Yeah, I mean, my phone's been blowing up for a while because
Yeah.
I do a YouTube show,
Right.
Sasquatch Out of the Shadows, and we do a live stream. So I'm always having people either trying to get on the show or,
Right.
hey, I have this going on. And it's really cool because it, you know, in my areas, like in New Hampshire, I get a lot of reports that way. But definitely since this has come out, I've had a lot of people saying, you guys should spend a week here. You should come to my property. And I don't know if it's probably a combination between Beyond the Trail and other stuff, but definitely have noticed people kind of calling us out, and somehow things have just really worked out well. I mean, like in this recent Colorado episode, we spent a few days on this ranch with activity, and that was born out of the idea of saying, hey, we should get some horse riding shots. That would be really cool. And then my friend was like, well, I know this lady and she has Bigfoot activity on her property. So it was two birds with one stone, and I think that was totally unplanned story element that just came in, and I think will make whole half segment of the film really incredible, and we got some pretty cool stuff for that. That's going to be really interesting. So yeah, definitely it's been a combination of that, people wanting you know, a lot of people saying, hey, I have 12 Bigfoots back here, I can talk to them, you know, if you come here. And you know, some of it's better than others, but it's been interesting for sure.
What we'll probably close out on this, but what is the scariest event you've been a part of during the filming?
Oh man, the scariest event. I would have to I mean, I don't usually get creeped out in the woods. I'm pretty comfortable out there. I'm not like some super crazy outdoorsman. I'm a hiker, backpacker. I've been doing that for a while. And I like the Bigfoot stuff. So that stuff doesn't creep me out. It's the human element of things. So we had this incident in Oregon.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
because I don't
scary.
think there's been any times we've genuinely our life has been threatened. You know, there's been times where you might lose a tire. We've lost some tires and had issues in some of the areas you go in driving wise.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have easily tripped over a log in Utah and not had any service and died out there very easily,
my
especially on that
goodness,
one mountain. But this incident in Oregon, we're going to a research area that Cliff Barrickman and Connor Anderson of Cliff's Museum, the North American Bigfoot Center, recommended. And we're all out there hanging out. We have a whole kind of posse. We had Eli's friend Sam as well, who came on for that production, which was really cool because he was a film guy from LA. So it was really cool to have another person. I think that helped that film as well.
Yep.
So shout out to Sam. But yeah, we're camping in this spot where there's been some really good Bigfoot reports over the past few years and decades. And we encountered this group of people that are very sketchy, and they're doing tiki torches out in the woods when there was a huge fire ban. I mean, the Pacific Northwest has been on fire the whole summer. So don't do fires out there. But the car, they had pentagrams hanging and bones, and we were all just a little on edge. And there were seven of us dudes there who were not chickens in the woods by any means. So we were uncomfortable. So we said, let's go to an area where, you know, maybe Bigfoot is the scariest thing around. That was probably the scariest thing I've had happen. Everything else has been, you know, we hear knocks or something and we go in that direction. You know, I want to see what's making that noise, or I want to find moose evidence, or, you know, it's been the theme. We show moose scat almost every episode.
It's true, though.
People tend to like that, so that's our little Easter egg. But yeah, that's the creepiest thing. I don't know if Eli would agree.
Yeah, honestly, it was. I would say, I don't know, what we experienced in Colorado with those howls was pretty scary, but once you brought up the Oregon thing, that definitely tops it.
I got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Oh.
That's cool. So, you know, as somebody who didn't spend a whole lot of time out in the woods before this, were there situations that I took you into where you ever like, this is pretty crazy, I don't know how I would have ended up here? Or was there like a dangerous situation or anything?
Maybe in Maine. It's such a small thing, and it didn't end up in the episode, but when we were bushwhacking back off the mountain, you know, because we tried to go up that mountain, and then we were coming down, and you slipped. I don't know if you remember, and you hit your shin.
Oh, yeah, that was painful.
And, like you could have easily, like, kept sliding and broken your leg or something, and there's no service out there. You know what I mean? That was kind of scary, I guess, because then it kind of, like, I'm pretty comfortable bushwhacking, you know, but like freak accident, you slip, you fall, you break your leg, you know what I mean? It could happen to anybody. So that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, oh man, this is pretty dangerous. Or the backpacking trip we just did. I thought that was a little intense. I don't know. I wasn't having the greatest time of my life there, but
The elevation was tough. Yeah.
The elevation was the toughest part. But
I do gotta say though, that I think Eli has just grown a lot in the woods. Like he's so much more comfortable now. I can just have him do a fire while I'm doing something else. You know, it's like it's really cool to see that, and I think that he's gonna keep growing those outdoor skills probably throughout his life. I mean,
the first time I saw Eli out in the woods, first time I met him in real life, he was literally power chugging Dayquil from the bottle, from the bottle in the woods in Washington.
Got some sniffles.
Precious memories.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Okay, more episodes of Beyond the Trailer coming, basically, is what we're saying. And we didn't even get to talk about what we're doing right now, but we're on a time schedule today, so we got to get out of here. But
we got to get back into the woods.
We got to get back into the woods. We're doing a Minerva monster kind of follow up.
I'll say real quick.
Yeah.
This is basically going to be like a looking back into the Minerva case. There's going to be a little bit of nostalgia maybe for people who know Minerva case, but it's going to be Beyond the Trail for sure.
Yeah. I think it's going to be super cool, too, to see the location. The location is...
with all these cool people, too.
Amazing. I love the location. And Tommy was able to go, so that was cool.
Awesome,
Yeah.
We're back next week. Leave us a rating and review on iTunes and wherever. monsteropolismail@gmail.com. Become a squad member. Sorry for my nasally voice. Most people would say I'm pretty nasally anyway, but this is worse than normal. I think that does it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Check you guys later.
Yeah, I'll see y'all next week.